I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled Utility Service Board meeting. It is March 28th, 2022. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. And back by popular demand, we'll do questions first and then a motion. So, any questions on the minutes of the previous meeting? All in favor of approving the minutes of the previous meeting, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, well, I was on fast track here, so can we get a motion for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. Now, all...
If I might interrupt for a moment,
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request we amend the agenda to get the rate review moved up further so that we can hear from our consultants that are standing by via Zoom on the screen.
Oh.
So if I'll move that we amend the order of the agenda to move the, let's see.
Item 8? Item 13?
Yeah, way down there.
That would be
Okay.
an X3, yeah. Okay. Item 13.
Did we approve the minutes?
Yeah, we have a motion on the
Oh,
table.
I'm sorry.
We have a motion on the table.
That's okay.
Thank you.
But just to finish up on that, we will insert item 13 up at item 3. So after we do the minutes. So, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the previous meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next up we have item 13. We had a subcommittee meet, our finance subcommittee. Would whoever chaired that meeting like to present on the results?
Do we need to have a motion and a second and approval of amending the agenda to move that item up?
Okay.
So I'll move that we move item 13A and by amending the agenda to this point in the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor of moving item 13 to item 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Now, for item 3, our new item 3, do we have a report from that subcommittee?
Yes, I had the pleasure of chairing the Finance Subcommittee meeting today, and what we have is a water rate adjustment that's Resolution 2022-02. And the reason we have this is the passage of House Bill 1002, which really reduced the tax rate that we pay to the state that the General Assembly passed, the governor signed, would be in effect July the 1st. So what happens now is we need to change our rate, which means we have to have a new filing with the Utilities Regulatory Commission. If we approve this today, it will go forward to the City Council, and they will consider it April 6th, 13th, with a final vote on the 20th, so it gets submitted to the IURC by May the 1st for their deliberation, and then hopefully in effect for our ratepayers for third quarter. And we discussed this and had further input from our consultants and Laura Pettit, our Associate Director of Finance, and this moves forward with a 3-0 recommendation for approval.
Okay, so we can take the subcommittee's recommendation as a motion for approval for the board.
Okay. That's good then. I'll move that we accept the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee in regard to Resolution 2022-02.
And do we have a second?
That's a big one. It comes from the committee
Okay.
as a
Then we
second.
can take questions. Thank you, Jim.
Would you like us to say anything about it? I think Kirk did a fabulous job of explaining it. This is
Sure.
mandated by the legislature, and we have to file before May 1st by statute. So there's been a lot of frantic running around to get this done by today. So Laura may have something to say, but that's where we are. We also have with us Craig Lotz and Jennifer Wilson from Crow, who did the financial analysis related to the rate presentation, and they're on Zoom.
We have a question. Amanda?
Okay, thank you. So I actually have a couple of questions. So I know we are really fast tracking this through. When were we notified of this change?
Last week.
Thank you, state. Okay, that's my first question.
Actually, it was late in the week before last, but the governor didn't sign it till last week.
Okay, so us expediting this is not something that was caused by staff here. This is something that has had to get fast-tracked because of what's the constraints that have been put upon CBU from state. My second question is, and it's probably obvious, but how does this affect our budgeting?
It doesn't.
Okay.
This was a pass-through. This is a tax that we pay to the state. So we don't pay it anymore, so we don't collect it anymore.
And then my third question is, does this affect the ratepayers?
Yes, but only a little bit, 1.16, is that right, Craig?
Yep, correct.
So we've recently just increased water bills. Now we're going to decrease water bills. So my question then becomes, how is this going to be communicated to the ratepayers?
So we will send obviously a press release at the end of this meeting. We'll be sending out a press release. The statute also requires that we include a notice in the next two bills stating that the legislature has made a change in the law and that and that's why we're reducing the rate.
And this is to the rate that we just did, remind me again, was that sewer or was that?
was water.
That was water. Okay, so this is a reduction in the increase that we just implemented.
That's correct, and this is also for water.
Okay, those are my questions.
Jim?
Yeah, I asked this question of Chris and Vic before the meeting, and I did get a satisfactory answer, but there may be more people who have the same question. And that is, as I told them, I'm quite aware that if you increase something by 10% and then decrease that by 10%, you're not back where you started. But I tried as hard as I could to figure out how an increase of 1.4%, which is what we're now paying, can be exactly offset by a decrease of 1.16%. So if Vic wants to explain it again, or?
I'll let Craig and Jennifer take this one.
Yeah, I can speak to that. That's a function of the amount of utility receipts tax that was included in the test year that was used in the water rate case that went before the commission. So that was the 12 months ending March 30th of 2020. That operating year was kind of put forth before the commission and setting the rates moving forward. And whether from timing or whatever reason, there was just a little bit lower amount of utility receipts tax included in that test year. And so the actual amount that's baked into those approved rates and charges wasn't the full 1.4%. So then decreasing or reducing the rates and charges to remove just that portion related to the tax doesn't equal out to the 1.4% rate that's actually charged to the utility.
Thanks, but you can guarantee us that the reduction of 1.16% will exactly offset the previous.
Yes, because the statute even kind of provides a method, and they've given some guidance for how they'd like you to approach the calculation. And that's looking at the amount of revenue requirement that was approved before the commission And it's a very identifiable number to see how much of that number included utility receipts tax as a revenue requirement.
Just that I've dealt with enough government formulas and with IRS ways of calculating things, and I've never found them to be either understandable or correct.
Spoken like a true representative of the ratepayers, right?
Amanda addressed, oh, sorry. Thank you, okay. Amanda addressed most of my questions. I was just wondering, did the governor mention, is there a time frame on how long this tax will be reduced, or when could the rate go back in place? Any information we anticipate about the length of time for this?
It's, at this point, it's forever until the legislature acts again. So
Okay.
that could not happen for at least another year.
Correct. Okay, well, thank you. I'm good.
Well, I have a question. Just thinking about how this gets represented as a claim, where would we see such a thing appear in our claims in this payment that we make to the state? Is it apparent anywhere that we would have noticed? Because I don't remember seeing anything like this.
Hi, Laura Pettit, Assistant Director of Finance. You see all the state taxes that we pay in, there's a page in the claims, and I believe that's where it is. We pay it quarterly, so
Okay.
it's not there every meeting.
I just haven't noticed that particular one. I know we, pay this much for water,
Right.
$12,000 a month or so to the state.
Right.
But this is separate. All right, I'll look out for that. Thank
Okay.
you. All right, so any further questions or statements?
I just want to clarify one thing. The residential customer will see a very small decrease in their bill. So the rate for metered sales will go down by 5 cents. So if you're a 3,000 gallon per month customer, that's about 15 cents a month. Plus, you'll get about 7 to 9 cents worth of reduction in your meter fee. So altogether, it's going to be on the order of 20 cents, probably 20 to 25 cents per month.
Which seems like a lot less than 1.4% of our bill.
Well, it's
but-
1.4% of the water bill.
Okay.
Right, so it's not everything else.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
I just wanted to make that clear to everyone.
I trust your math and our consultant's math. And thank you for your questions on that, Jim. All right, well, I think we're at the time we get to vote on this, so if there are no further questions or comments, all in favor of the subcommittee's recommendation to approve Resolution 2002 for the water rate adjustment compliant with IC 8124.2, please say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay. So we will go on to our next item. Approval of the claims. We have 4 types: invoices, utility bills, wire transfers, and customer refunds. First up, standard invoices. We had quite a few this month. Do we have any questions on the standard invoices? All right, I'll start off. I just have 2. The first one for the Bren tag on page 1. There were 3 with the exact same amount, the same date, but different invoice numbers. We're sure those are all correct, right?
Yes, that's correct. I knew you were going to ask, so I pulled them a few minutes ago, and they are all for different delivery days.
I guess I'm glad I'm predictable. Thank you. And let's see if I can get you on this one.
You've already got me on the second one.
All right. So I saw on page 6 that we had a bill out to Snedeker Construction for a Vector operation.
Yes.
Now, I know we have our own Vector, so I was just
Correct.
curious why we needed a different Vector.
Yes, so actually, I do know this one as well. We did not have any available. One did not have plates, was that correct, Vic? And the other 2 were in the fleet getting serviced. So we had to have Snedeker come out and provide that service for us.
Okay, that makes sense.
And Brandon Prince should be on Zoom if you have additional questions.
Very good. Any other questions on the claims? All in favor, I need a motion, I'm sorry. A motion for approving the standard invoices.
So moved. Second.
You can figure that out. All in favor of approving the standard invoices? Aye. Opposed? And next, we have the utility bills. So we had a total of $26,432.70. Any questions on the utility bills? Do you have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor of approving the utility bills, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next up, the wire transfers for a total of $372,549.62. Do you have a motion for approving the wire transfers?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the customer refunds. Do we have a motion for the customer refunds?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any questions on the customer refunds? All in favor of approving the customer refunds, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next up, the consent agenda totaling $38,322.63. Vic Kelson.
Good evening, Vic Kelson, Utilities Director. As Mr. Eman stated, the consent agenda tonight totals $38,322.63. Item A is to SSW Enterprises LLC. This is $8,000 for on-call cleaning services at all of our facilities. Item B is to Heflin Industries, $4,322.63 for an emergency repair of a low service pump at the Monroe plant. Item C, commercial service of Bloomington for $17,000. This was for sump pump inspections. Item D is to Wessler Engineering. This is a no-charge item. That's a First Amendment to extend the life of the agreement for the SCADA test bed and change management system. And then the last is to Crow LLC for $9,000. That's consulting services and analysis for the rate adjustment you just approved. Would any board member wish to take any of these up separately?
Yes. Item C.
Okay, so we'll take up the items A, B, D, and E. Does anyone wish to have any of those considered separately? Okay, if there's no opposition, items A, B, D, and E will be approved as recommended by staff. Hearing no opposition, items A, B, D, and E are approved as recommended by staff. So now we move ahead to questions and any answers we may need for item C to commercial service of Bloomington. And I'll leave it to you, Jeff.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vic, we've talked about this before, and this is, I assume, this funding is probably coming from that fee that we had for approving some of the new expansion. So is that where the revenue is coming from to pay for this?
That's true. Is that right? Yeah, this is the Clearwater program that we've previously discussed.
And so, as I think about this, obviously there's going to be probably a lot more than, is this like a first phase? Because
This is the first step in the process, yes.
Okay, and so when we hire a firm to do this, do they call the property owner and make arrangements, or what's the procedure for this? And then once they make a determination, how's the property owner to proceed with correcting a deficiency if there is one?
Is Liberty in the house?
Liberty Flora is on Zoom.
Yes, Vic, I can answer these. I'm Liberty Flora, Environmental Program Coordinator. So once the inspections are complete, the contractor or consultant will send us the proposals, at which time we'll review those to see which projects are feasible. And at that time, we'll consider moving forward with completing those projects. The details are to be worked out.
So then, so the contractor does an assessment on the property, and let's say that if everything's good, obviously, if they're not taking sump pump water and going into the wastewater stream, then check the box and go to the next place. But if there is a deficiency, then do we work with the property owner to help them fix it, or we just say, you have a certain amount of time to get this done?
The Clearwater program actually will fund it as long as we've got money in the Clearwater program. So what will happen is, as Liberty said, the contractor that does the inspections will give us estimates for the corrective actions, and then we will work with the customer to get the corrective actions scheduled, and it will be paid for from the Clearwater program. Is that correct, Liberty? Did I get anything wrong there?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So about how many do you think this first set's gonna do here? Any idea?
So this is Liberty again. Our goal is to conduct 100 inspections. So right now we want to inspect all of the sump pumps in which the customer indicated it is either incorrectly connected to the sanitary sewer or the connection is unknown. I would say 30% or less are probably actually connected to the sanitary sewer. But we'll know more as we get more sump pump surveys turned in and conduct more inspections, of course.
So really, there's a positive incentive here for the property owner to get this going while there's still available funds to get it done.
Precisely.
All right. Sounds good to me. Those were the questions I had. I was just thinking about it in terms of, if you get this call at your house, what do we do next? And want to make sure we're headed the right direction. Is this commercial and residential both, or just residential?
Residential.
Right now, we're focusing on residential.
Okay. Thank you.
And we had like six-figure sum available for this program, is that correct? Like 420,000 ring, that's what sticks in my head. What was it, the number for the Clearwater program that?
Was 140, is that right?
So there are 4 MOUs. One of them is for 408,000. These are rough numbers. There's another for 173,000. There's one in the 200,000 range, I believe, and another one in the 100,000 range.
And these are all associated with the project going on at the old Kmart site? No.
So the one at the Kmart site is the $408,000 MOU.
That's the one I remember. So we have other ones.
Right. So there's the Overlook, Curry Urban, and Westgate, in addition to the district at Latimer, which is the Kmart site.
I think Brandon has a question too. He's got his hand raised on the Zoom.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
Is Brandon staff, or should we wait till public questions?
I think it was just the mouse. It was the mouse.
Okay, sorry. It looked like,
I can't see.
it looked like he had a.
So, one more question. Liberty, good to see you. And so does this entire original 17,000, is that just for the assessments and then to do the 100 assessments?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So when you come back with projects, we'll see another memo and move on at that point?
Yes. And the 17,000 is a not to exceed amount. I'm sure you saw that. So it's based on the number of inspections they complete.
Okay. Any other
And there's
questions?
a unit cost. If the sump pump is correctly connected, it's one cost, and then if it's incorrectly connected, it's another.
Okay. Any other questions for Liberty or staff?
This is the first one of these, right, Liberty? We expect as we go into other regions that we'll be doing more of these. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have one more question. So, but all these will be in the basin that feeds down the College Mall Drive interceptor, because that's the one of the problems of the Clearwater?
We've got it in several places.
Several different places.
Yeah, so there's two of them, I believe, in that east side neighborhood. There's one on the west side, and one is at sort of north central. Is that right?
That is, yes, I think, I was under the impression there were three on the south, in the southeast area.
I'm sorry.
but-
I'm corrected. Yeah, there are three in the southeast. Ultimately, all of them go to Dillman Road, and ultimately, we do have one overflow location on South Walnut, it's on South Rogers, that actually collects from a lot of the city. So anywhere that any reduction in Clearwater flow everywhere helps reduce the peaks.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion for this one item for the $17,000 for the sump pump inspections?
So moved. Approval.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, next up, we have the first of two bid openings. This one for vehicles, Cindy Shaw.
Hi, Laura Pettit. Cindy stepped out. We did not receive any bids for vehicles.
Okay. So we will wait and hear back from you on that item at a later meeting.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Next up, we have bid opening for Monroe Water Treatment Plant Residuals Dewatering Improvements. Dan Hudson.
For the record, I'm Dan Hudson, Capital Projects Manager. We have two bids. I was hoping three, but we have two bids, and this is for a pretty big project. This is for to upgrade the solids dewatering system at the Monroe Water Plant. It includes a building and also a replacement of their solids dewatering equipment, which is a belt press. So the first one is from Thieneman. Okay, they have a lump sum bid of $2,253,000. And the next one is from Mitchell and Stark. For $2,200,000. Really close. I'm open to any questions that you have.
Is there an engineering estimate on this project?
There is. I brought that with me this time. The engineering estimate is $2,835,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dan? Okay, well, you'll come back to us then in 2 weeks?
I'll come back to you in 2 weeks with our recommended, the best bid that we look at, and ask for another, more funds. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Jane Fleeg with a request for approval of agreement with Reed and Sons Construction for a water main replacement project on West Fountain Drive.
Did you announce me?
Yes, hi Jane.
Jane Fleet, for the record. As you'll recall, last meeting, we brought a resolution to allow us to award to Reed and Sons Construction the West Fountain Drive Water Main Replacement Project in the amount of $312,810. What you have before you tonight is the actual agreement that we ask for you to go ahead and execute so that we can get this project underway. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jane? Okay, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved?
All in favor? Please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
And next up, we have Brad Schroeder with a request for approval of a third amendment to the agreement with Greeley Hansen to expand the scope of work for engineering, design, and construction administrative services. Brad.
Hi, Brad Schrader, Assistant Director of Engineering. This is for the Dillman large upgrade project we've been doing. We've been going at this for a couple of years now through design and construction. We're into the last probably 3 months now, 2-3 months of construction. We're about done. And Greeley Hansen's been our engineer, and through the course of the project, there's been both additional services we requested of them to perform. It's things we've noticed it would be nice to have these added on. For example, a new pumping system for solids handling that we didn't see in the first place. There's also been some unforeseen conflicts, and one of those the board approved quite a while ago where we had to replace a whole bunch of electrical conduit. When that failed, that took quite a bit of engineering work behind that. So to get Greeley Hansen to the end of the project for us, we've been working together on a modification of their contract. It's increasing the price by $159,000 from $3,780,000 to $3,939,000. Happy to entertain any questions on this.
Questions for Brad? Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved?
All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And back to Dan Hudson for a request for approval of agreement with Commonwealth Engineers for lift station evaluations. Oh, that's, sounds very similar to the one we moved up, but lift station evaluations, not sump pump. Okay. So, Dan, again. There you are.
For the record, I'm Dan Hudson, Capital Projects Manager. This time, I'm asking for funds for Commonwealth engineers to do a preliminary engineering study on the sanitary lift stations. Not all of them. This came from a very detailed study that we did back 15 years ago, and we picked out some of the worst systems that we'd like to have engineered and a cost to improve. And we've interviewed several consultants, and we found that Commonwealth was probably the most experienced in this area. This includes a cost estimate and a feasibility of installing portable electric hookups so we can hook up a portable generator to each of the sites. In case we have a power outage, we just drag a generator out that would match that lift station and get it going. Other ones include the police station. Believe it or not, there's a small lift station in the police station, the old police station, and it's almost impossible to maintain. We like a cost to moving that lift station outside of the building, if possible. They're going to look at it. We want Morningside Drive lift station looked at. That's one that has really high wet weather flow and has overflowed several times. Excuse me. Westwood is another one with high flow amounts. And we have 2 can lift stations. These are old lift stations designed back in the 60s that are not at current design and don't meet any standard at all. And so we're asking them to look at these stations to see what it would cost to replace those. And we also have one other area that we believe could be a development area in the future. So we're asking them to do some hydraulic analysis. It's an area that has a lift station that flows into another lift station to another lift station. And so all these lift stations have to have the capacity to meet this new development. And so we're asking Commonwealth, and they gave us a quote for this for $69,742. Any questions? Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a note here on the cover memo that we've also are going to be applying for some state water infrastructure funding. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's the state revolving fund. As part of the study, they're going to help us through that process. After they do the preliminary engineering and we have a base of cost, then we're ready to apply for some of these funds that are coming out. And so time is kind of important right now because there's new funding in the state. But other communities are grabbing it up, but there's a certain amount, and we want to be in line, and we have to have studies like this in order to apply for it. Yeah.
And then that grant funding is basically available to, we would be applying for it for costs to make those repairs, to make those enhancements, not for the cost of the engineering.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's just for construction, and it's not the total cost of construction. Vic might be able to help me out with this. I don't know how much the city has to put in, 20% or something, I don't know.
So the way that'll work out is dependent on the particular program. Last week, Brad, who stepped out, Brad and I were in a meeting at City Hall with a firm that is assisting the city in examining opportunities for getting money from the bipartisan infrastructure funding, and that money is coming out in dribs and drabs to the states. Some of it will eventually probably be directly sent to communities as well. And at this point, the money is starting to come out of Washington, but in a lot of cases, it's going to state agencies like the IFA, Indiana Finance Authority, and it'll come through the state revolving fund or other places. So. But there will certainly be matches in most cases, and we don't know the ranges on those matches will depend on the particular program. So we are in ongoing conversations with City Hall and with others to try and find these opportunities. So in some cases, we may be coming to you looking for matching dollars, and that can, we just need to make sure that it doesn't get tricky. When we're doing rate cases, we need to be aware that there may be some opportunities that come kind of out of the blue. So it'll all be part of our budgeting.
And that's one reason why we chose Commonwealth, is because they have done this for other communities, this kind of work. I would like to add that it's a preliminary engineering study, not a design, and so as we move forward, I'll have to come back to you guys and request money for design. Any other questions? Okay.
We need a motion and a second, and to move forward with this if we want to.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And the last of these contract approvals is a request for agreement with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc. for street sweeping analysis for compliance with MS4. James Hall. Is James on?
I think Kat
Yeah,
Baker is
okay.
covering for James.
James, you're up, and I think you need to turn your mic on if you're talking.
Hi.
Oh, there we go.
James actually isn't here, and I'm covering for him. This is essentially just contracting with Wood to do an analysis of what we would need to have in order to obtain adequate water quality with
Kat, I'm going to stop you just a
through
second.
street sweeping. Okay.
Can you introduce your title?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hi, I'm Catherine Zager. I'm the MS4 program coordinator. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do we have any questions for Catherine? Was it Catherine?
This may, again, be
That's
a,
probably a question for me, I'll bet.
it's probably a very silly question. Is CBU responsible for the street sweeping?
We are
So
not.
Okay, that's why I was a little okay, so that's not a dumb question.
I can take this one. This is one of the weaknesses in the city's infrastructure management is that we really don't, the city as a whole, in Public Works doesn't have the resources to do the kind of street sweeping that really would be necessary to maintain our MS4 program and maintain surface water runoff quality, and also we just saw dirt and things get in and plug up infrastructure and all of that. So the idea is we are looking at the prospect that CBU could take over street sweeping. In a lot of communities, it's really part of the MS4 program, not part of Public Works. So the idea was to look at whether it's something that we would take over. Obviously, we'd have to expand the street sweeping efforts. Kat, do you know how often we get our streets swept now?
I'm not sure about now, but I think we were looking at how much it would take to at least do it twice a year. I don't think we do it even that often now,
And we don't.
like to get the whole city.
Yeah, so we don't have the, Public Works doesn't have the resources. So the idea is that it is this, since street sweeping mostly serves the MS4, is that something that should be part of our purview as opposed to being part of Public Works purview. So the purpose of the study is to examine what the costs would be in doing that so that the board and the staff here in the department can decide whether this is something that the board would support us taking on and then it would be taken out of the Public Works budget. I've been talking with Adam Wason, Public Works Director, and Mayor Hamilton about this prior to us embarking on the study. But the idea is to see what's the best way for the city to do street sweeping, and since the MS4 infrastructure is greatly affected by the quality of our street sweeping efforts, we want to investigate that.
Please.
So currently, do we have, I mean, do we have any input that we have with the city to say, these are areas that are particularly, that need this?
They do have that information, yes.
Okay.
They know where the worst areas are. They do know that, yes.
But do they take care of them?
I'm sure they do as much as they can. They have very limited resources. I believe they have one person, and I don't think they have 2 sweepers right now. So they don't have a lot of dedicated staff to this effort. Over the years, it's one of those things that sort of become less of a priority.
I would have to agree. So, okay, thank you.
Is there any cost sharing from the city in this initiative?
And we've lost Kat.
Do you know?
I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, good.
If there's a cost share?
Are we sharing this with Public Works at this time? I don't think
I
we are.
don't believe so.
I don't believe we are.
So the
Sorry,
thought,
it's kind of hard to hear you.
So the thought there is that since we're responsible for MS4 compliance, just like if we were looking at problems with fats, oils, and grease, we wouldn't give the bill to the restaurants. We'd take care of that and then act accordingly with those restaurants. It's the same sort of logic.
Right, and really the idea here is to do the study now so that we can see what would it take. And then if the decision is made that the board would approve of this becoming a CBU function, and if City Hall approved of this becoming a CBU function, we would include funding for actually executing the program when we reconsider the stormwater fee which is coming up in the fall this year. So the idea is that if we were to take this on as a CBU activity, it would be in the stormwater fee discussion, and that's where it would ultimately be decided.
Have other communities looked at this differently, like the city's actually responsible for keeping their streets clean and the materials out of the stormwater system, and that they would be responsible for that those actions?
Actually, a few years ago, all the city departments did an organizational analysis with an external consultant that came in and talked to us about our operations, our organizational structure, all the different things we did. The second question they asked me is, why aren't you doing street sweeping? Because it really is more, you don't sweep streets to make them look nice. You sweep streets to keep the MS4 clean.
Will this study analyze the biggest threats in terms of MS4, be it, oil runoff, oil on the streets, salt, grit, all these different things? I mean, is it more than just utilities taking over street sweeping, or are we actually looking at the impact to the system?
Kat, can you speak to that?
So, yeah, I think part of this is looking at the impact that street sweeping would have on the system. I'm not sure if it's going to go into detail about specifically sediments or oils. I know that, sediment is one of the top pollutants anyway, so I'm not sure if they would need to go into that kind of detail, but I think they will. I don't want to say for certain, but yeah, I think it's just generally.
I'm not going to speak for the board, but if the cost of street sweeping is a lot more than going out and cleaning out the grit out of our sewers, we need to know that. I mean, we need to know the benefits that us taking on that responsibility would be what would be accrued there versus what the alternative costs would be. And if we're not doing that analysis, I think it's pretty short-sighted.
That's what we're doing here.
We are?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah, the purpose of this is to look at the costs and benefits to the MS4 for doing this activity.
Well, then we have to look at individual constituents like grit versus oil versus salt or whatever the other threats are.
I don't have the detailed documentation.
Sorry, let me correct myself. I am not certain as to how they will analyze it. And that is only because I'm standing in for James right now, and he oversaw a lot of the details of this. But yeah, they will be analyzing the benefit of it overall. How they will do that, I'm sorry, I can't say exactly.
May I suggest that I don't think this is time dependent. We can take this up in 2 weeks if you wish.
Okay, it would be good to have more information, at least, I'm not going to act alone here, but if the board also agrees, I think it would be nice to have more information before we move forward, if anyone's supportive of that. Sure. Okay.
So I move that we table the discussion to the next meeting so that we can get further information.
And James will be here for that.
Thank you.
Second?
Oh, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Didn't know we needed a motion to not take action.
I think
Just to table.
to table.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
next up, we have old business. Old business from the board. Old business from staff.
None.
New business from the board. New business from staff.
None.
Okay, and we've taken care of item 13, so on to staff reports.
Yes, staff reports. We have one new employee and two transfers. The first is Pascal Sloman has joined us as a temporary part-time member of the flushing crew, and he joined us just last week. We also, Kathy Powell, who is a longtime employee here, has become the transmission and distribution meter operations coordinator. And Jay Ramey, who's part of our engineering division, has taken on the new role of senior project coordinator. So those are our personnel changes. The next thing I wanted to just talk very briefly, I know we're late tonight. Last week, I had the opportunity to go with a couple of staff to Fort Wayne to meet with our counterparts at Fort Wayne City Utilities. This is a meeting that we had planned to have in March of 2020, but something came up. And we finally got to do it this month. It was very productive. Fort Wayne is a very forward-looking and progressive utility system that's involved in a lot of things that are things that we should be looking at in terms of means for regional, looking at the regional system as opposed to just their own systems, but they're also dealing with a lot of the day-to-day issues. We are things like retention and recruitment of staff, long-term financing, and of course, they've got all the same sewer problems we do. And they have a waste-to-energy recovery plant there with an anaerobic digester system. So I've had a couple of opportunities to engage with them, and it's really, I think, useful for us to be interfacing with the other larger utilities in the state. So just want to tell you that we did that. We learned a lot, and we will continue reaching out to our counterparts elsewhere in the state and bringing back what we can. So and thanks, and I'd like to thank the folks in Fort Wayne for their time. Then the last thing is, and I'm sorry she's not here, this is the last board meeting for Laura Pettit. Laura is leaving us to return to IU. We stole her from IU, and they're stealing her back. So, Laura's made a good difference here in our finance division since she came about 4 years ago, and we will miss her and all of her efforts. And I just wanted to say, last year she did a mighty fine job on the rate case. She was a real stalwart efforts on the rate case. So want to thank Laura for her service here, and I'm sorry she's not here to hear from you right now, but I just wanted to make sure you knew it before you come to the next meeting. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Vic. Any questions for staff?
I think we should, on behalf of the board, I mean, Laura's done just a wonderful job and has been incredibly responsive to every question that we've had. The work that she's done has been absolutely impeccable, and she will be missed.
Well, thank you, Randall. Any petitions or communications? Do we have, I don't know what happened to our feed, but.
Well, we wouldn't get them. They have to be in the room.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then any petitions and communications here? All right. Do I hear a motion for adjournment? Thank you. We are adjourned.